This conference will now be recorded.
My name is Bob Stone. I'm the chair of the Underhill Selectboard. I'm going to call this regular scheduled select board meeting to order. Today is the 21st of November. It is now 6 o'clock. Before we get into the agenda, I'm going to make an announcement that a long-term town employee, Christian Fuller, passed away yesterday. I brought tonight his favorite beverage, which was Pepsi. And I thought it was appropriate to raise a glass in Crick's honor. And I have a toast that I'd like to say. So we're going to pause just a little bit and raise a glass in Crick's honor.
What
I'll sleep tonight.
right? What where in the town did he work? At the highway department?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, you want to swap cups?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don't stall on the lights. I'll be very
One down.
I shouldn't have had coffee on the way here.
So Crick, again, was a long-time town employee, and Crick grew up in the 50s with several brothers and sisters. And my father would tell a story about how that they all liked baseball. However, they all didn't like the same team. So it was AM radio stations back in the day, and they would have baseball games from New York to Boston to Pittsburgh to Cincinnati to all across the country. For those that don't know, Crick was an avid Yankees fan. So I hope that Crick has a good AM radio and is able to listen to the Yankees when they play. Here's to Crick.
Nice job.
It's all right. Old fashioned.
So with that, we've started the meeting. Is there any public comment? We have a couple of people here virtually. I'm not seeing too many, but if there's any public comment, this would be a good time to say anything. Oh, any adjustments to the agenda? Are there any adjustments that anybody has?
No.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's any open public comment, so we'll get right to the town hall renovation presentation. Our friend Ryan Edwards from the architect is here. And thanks, Ryan, for stopping by tonight.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet everyone in person. Again, I'm Ryan. Hey there. Again, I'm Ryan Edwards from East Calais. I've been working with what I'm just calling the building committee. Brad, Sherry, Jennifer, and Amanda. And yeah, I'm just here this evening to kind of walk you through where we are now after several meetings, and just to give you an update on where things stand since I last presented to you on September 12th. So the set you all should have in front of you and that Brad has up on the screen. We can sort of skip through the first few pages. These are just the existing conditions plan, existing conditions renderings, which we especially don't need to look at because we're in the space right now. The first sheet we can come to is drawing A1.2. It's the one all in red. This is just a proposed demolition plan, calling out notes for things that we're removing, such that when we look at the space plan on the next page, it'll make a little more sense. Again, I won't get into sort of granular detail here, if we kind of just walk from plan left to plan right, sort of like we did on September 12th, just to sort of guide you generally what the scope of work is. And I'm happy to answer any questions that come up from anyone. Again, the big thing here with the stage, again, plan left behind the select board here, is we want to preserve as much historic character of the stage as possible. You know, there's a lot of historic probably the most significant amount of historic fabric on the interior side of this is that stage. And so whatever we do, especially with the plan to enlarge the stage, you know, we can't be tossing out these historic railings and the historic paneling and things like that. So the intent is actually to essentially bring the stage forward a few feet to give us enough room, and essentially just enough room that we can have basically all of these meeting tables, and so you can all be sitting up on the stage so that we're not all in the assembly hall here. So the design intent, which we'll look at on the next sheet once we get to it, is that all of this historic fabric sort of needs to be carefully removed such that the stage can be built out 3 feet. And then these historic elements, the panels, the railings, et cetera, would be reinstalled on the front of the stage, such that when it's complete, visually, at least from the assembly space here, it doesn't look like that we extended it. And only folks who are extremely familiar with the space would even notice that we did that. The other big note as we move again left to right, the pews. So we've had many discussions about these wood pews, some in better condition than others. Some have been extremely damaged just by way of, you know, the vents that have been installed in them. But I do call out in the drawings that, you know, prior to any of the pews being removed, that there's a note for the town to verify just which pews they would like to preserve, if any, for use in the new rehabilitated space. Again, some of them, they're not really worth preserving. There are some, and probably some up top, that could be rehabilitated and reused as needed. But in general, that would sort of be left up to the town to make that decision. And then, of course, the big one, the choir loft. That's what the space we're turning into, you know, sort of a breakout meeting space. So this drawing is just calling out for the removal of those tiered planes. The plane will essentially be just above where the existing lowest tier is. Keep in mind that there's an entryway below this choir loft, so we have to just be mindful of the elevation that we're maintaining to give us a flat surface for the space that we're going to construct up there. There's not really much else to talk about on the demolition plan unless anyone has any questions about it. We would be removing the fluorescent lights. I'm assuming there's no one who is in love with those. We'll be looking at replacing those with something a little nicer. Yeah, the cluster flies are a nice touch. Yeah, they do add a nice texture. So if we go to the next sheet, drawing A1.3, this is the plan that we looked at on September 12th. This is the plan that gives you the overview of what's proposed in this space. And the only thing that's really different from this iteration than the last one you saw is just adding, you know, supplemental annotations and notes calling out specific scope of work, such that someone could, you know, provide pricing for what we're doing here. So again, I won't spend as much time as last time just because we have looked at this before, but going from plan left to plan right. Essentially what we're proposing, like I mentioned on the demolition plan, when we added this 3 feet to the stage, I'm just noting that we would be adding any new flooring at the back wall such that it's minimally visible, such that all this existing flooring that we'll carefully remove will be on the front side. So we're trying to keep, again, all the historic fabric on the assembly side space. Nothing's changed in terms of providing locations for projector screens. The meeting space, nothing's changed there. We have the stairs that will go up, and again, there are renderings in here we can look at. But by and large, nothing's changed in terms of the scope. Again, I've just added supplemental notes. Let's see here. This is a new drawing, A1.4. This is a reflected ceiling plan, electrical plan. And again, this will make more sense when we look at the renderings. This is just calling out where we're adding new lighting. We will keep this chandelier here. However, we will be adding, or we've proposed to add, some nicer linear fixtures, which we'll look at in a moment, and some nice decorative pendant fixtures above the stage, which will look quite nice, I think. And then, again, everything else is just calling out, new wall sconces, switching and stuff like that. Again, the intent of this drawing set is such that, a local reputable contractor could price this out for the town, or, we could hire or if we wanted a cost estimator to look at it. Before we get to the renderings, the next few pages are just showing proposed light fixtures. Again, this is a schematic design set. This is all just proposed. This isn't, we're not coming in and doing this work tomorrow. So on A1.4B, on the left-hand side, these are the proposed linear pendant fixtures. And on the right side, those are the proposed decorative pendant fixtures that would go over the stage. And then on the next page, on the left-hand side, these are just some proposed wall sconces. Again, all of the fixtures we'd be putting in would be Energy Star compliant. That doesn't mean they're not aesthetically pleasing. And then on the right-hand side, this is just a proposed floor box, because of course we are going to have some integrated electrical and data outlets in the floor under the where the select board table would go.
Ryan, real quick question. Where would the wall sconces go?
Yep. If you go back to drawing A1.4, the electrical plan.
Yes.
So those are what I've just called WL1 fixtures. So on the top of the plan, there are a couple on the walls. They'd basically be replacing these old fixtures, primarily. I've called out for one in that back corner, and a couple other locations. I believe there are 5 total, but essentially 2 on each side.
I didn't even really know that we had those fire hazards there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A1.5, this is an overview rendering, again, which has a little more detail than when we met on the 12th. This is just showing those linear fixtures, which we'll see. There's a couple other renderings which show them a little bit better, but you can see them in this aerial perspective where these linear fixtures are going. You can also kind of see the 2 projector locations in the upper left.
Ryan, sorry, is that fixture coming out and not getting replaced, the one above the stairs going down?
I intentionally, we haven't had that conversation yet. It is a good question. I've not called to remove it yet. But yes, that is a great question. That's a question for
Still TBD. Okay. Thank you.
Do people love it? It's unique. I'll give it that. It's a unique fixture. We can talk about it.
I have a strong feeling.
We'll talk about it.
I kind of like it.
Does it work?
I think if you clean it up,
Yeah.
it could be
Just need a little TLC.
I don't know.
I'm
It's got a
not
bolt
sure.
runner.
The question is whether any of this is original or not, I guess is the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The next sheet, A1.6, is just looking actually back towards that light fixture, which I'm sort of intentionally not showing it in the rendering. Elephant in the room. A1.7, this is like a floor level perspective, standing back towards where we all come in that side door, looking back towards the proposed stage. This shows, those proposed linear fixtures and the proposed pendant fixtures over the stage.
Ryan, I was at St. Albans.
Yeah.
Did you have that here in that?
No.
They use the same lights.
Yeah.
And they have the screens, and the screens can be different things on the screens or all the same things.
Oh, nice.
Screens, and it was really smooth during the presentations that I was at. And I
Okay.
take pictures so I can share them with you.
Oh, good. Yeah, send them along.
And I will send it.
Yeah. Yeah, because one thing for the screens, is something where there is more detail to get into. These can either be projector screens or they can actually be screens like that television. So that's something to discuss. Screens like this are better from the point of view of then you don't have something that needs to then project onto said projector screens. Something to think about. The next drawing is just looking back towards this proposed staircase up to the meeting space that we've created. Again, that hasn't changed since we last met. And then the last drawing is just showing more detail, light fixtures in the proposed meeting space. But again, architecturally, it hasn't changed really since we last looked at it.
Ryan, this is Dan Kelsey.
Yep.
Just quick question. In this room, I imagine a room that we will be able to use, and I hope that there's the option to add a screen on the wall. I see what looks like a whiteboard or something there, but I imagine the town being able to use it, the town employees as well as us. So just a request that maybe there's a screen in that room on the wall as well.
Yes, totally. There absolutely can be a screen or two in that room. Yes, for now I was just showing proposed whiteboards for breakout meetings. But yes, absolutely,
Okay.
we can definitely accommodate for that.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
You're going to have to come to the mic.
So that's a very good question because this is a meeting for the select board. I'll allow it this time, but this is really a matter of for questions for the board, not members of the public. If the members of the board have questions regarding the presentation, we have an open comment period for the public in the beginning, and we have one at the end. So if it's the purview of the board, if they would like to have people that are in the audience that would like to ask questions of the presenter, that would be in order at this time. If not, I'm going to rule that it's out of order and the questions need to come from the board. It's our meeting.
I would advocate for Rick being able to speak. He comes in as public, but also in official capacity. Being a part of the Historical Society and being a part of the ARPA committee that studied this particular situation. So as for me, I would very much welcome that.
Is it a consensus of the board to have Rick be able to ask questions?
Yes, I agree with Dan's comments.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Yes, I also spent a year with a committee evaluating and assessing what we might do with this building here. Very much concerned about retaining as much. I really appreciate your presentation and keeping as much of this, in particular the stage area, in the renovation. The concern is that how much floor space are we going to lose for seating? And I ask that because I have attended many events in this room, and some of them just recently, and have taken a number of photographs where every bench along the outside of this room is filled with people sitting. So most concerned, I know these benches are not beautiful. However, the loss of seating that we're going to have because of the steps and the extended stage area here, balcony, and if we were to lose all of these, we will not have capacity seating for the events that normally take place in this room. And I know there's a lot of other folks that feel the same way.
So your space is limited by the square footage of your area,
Yes.
whether it's fixed seating or whether it's standing room by code. So we would have to determine what the open square footage is and determine whether or not that fits what's being proposed. in addition to whether or not we're going to continue to have fixed seating, such as the benches. So I'm assuming that when the architect presented the drawings and he provided a seating plan, that he took that into account of the required number of people that can be in that area given the size of the room.
Are you saying the capacity is going to be reduced as a result of this design?
It would have to be, because you're losing square footage of space, because you're bumping it out for access to the second, to the choir loft or what would be, and you're increasing the size of the stage. So the overall square footage is shrinking a bit to accommodate for that.
Will we not be able to use this room for most events then? Because they're standing room only for most of the events that we've had recently.
And that may be a problem because of overcapacity of what the room space is.
Well, that's a significant loss of the use of this building then, which is most unfortunate.
May I just
Sure.
follow up? So I don't remember what the number of folks that are listed on the fire safety certificate outside of that door are. It's obviously more than is being provided here. One thing I do want to note, so this seating I'm proposing, this is not proposed as fixed seating. This is just a proposed layout which satisfies, ADA clearances and things like that. Yeah, that certificate there. However, I have not calculated for, events where there is no even non-fixed seating in terms of like standing room only events. It would be more than the 55 people that we can seat comfortably with this proposed seating layout. But yes, we certainly are losing square footage that would be used, like you mentioned, towards calculating the max volume of people that can be in this room.
What is the capacity now?
So the capacity with tables and chairs is 131. Standing room is 214.
And we've had multiple dinners in this room each year as well with tables set up.
Yeah. Do you know how many people have been at those events, or?
Could only estimate, but I would say you've been to some of the recent ones as well. Easily probably 70 people plus or minus, I would say, because we've literally filled with every chair and all around the edges. Plus or minus.
The only thing I want to, can I add something?
Sure.
I'll come up and do it. I totally agree with what Rick's saying, and I don't think that the plan that we've been working on and that Ryan has done a great job on is eliminating. I mean, you're losing a few feet here, you're losing 3 feet here. To make this space usable for the majority of the time, okay? The majority of the time, we need to use this space as for meetings and working space. And his plan does not preclude you from taking fold-up chairs, as many as we want, storing them underneath that space that's going to be there, and putting them out, or standing along the edge when you're here for a funeral or a wedding or something. So I would just say, and none of this is happening tomorrow, it's very easy for us as we move forward to put some, masking tape down, play around with the space that's here, put some tape down and say, okay, if we had an 8-foot table here and we had 12 chairs, how much could we fit in the space? And really play with it before we move forward. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
One other thing I don't think I noticed maybe it was part of the previous plans, but just the addition of the podium there's the table and then the podium that'd be on that side. I'm just thinking about like how helpful that will be for when there's presentations or someone who comes to address the board, that they don't have to pull up a chair to the table, that there's a place for public comments and people being able to share things and everybody see them. And I think that will be a nice addition. So.
Yeah. And there will be floor outlets even over here. So I do just want to mention one thing, and I can't remember if I mentioned this previously. The reason I'm showing the committee table on this side is just because that is an egress door, so we can't have it in front of that door, which is why I'm showing the podium over there. But you absolutely, well, I've provided in the drawings just calling out floor outlets so that you could have a podium on this side, or that there's just that flexibility built into that. So. Any other questions?
I guess the only other comment that I'd like to add is that if we do move forward with this, that I'd like to see the addition of telecommunication data ports for if we were to have an emergency type situation where people would be able to plug in their laptops or whatever, or be able to access, to plug in to be able to put a presentation on a screen or something like that, or we were going to have a video conference, in that space, that, we would be thinking of the future as far as how that all would work. So in our electrical and mechanical plans, it would be nice to have something like that included in that space up above.
Okay.
If not, down for the board as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good points, Bob. Fully agree.
So what are our next steps? What are,
I'll let the building committee chime in as well, but the next steps really would be to get pricing. Again, it's possible, every small town is different. There may be, contractors that the town works with frequently and could have them very easily price out the drawing set. If needed, we could have a cost estimator do it, although it would be cheaper if there was a contractor that the town works with to just put together pricing. This isn't an overly complicated scope of work. And then from there, Jennifer will have the numbers a firmer number to put into the budget. Is that correct? Yeah. That she needs. And then, once we get the green light, that there is some time and effort on my end in terms of taking these from schematic drawings with simple annotations to layering in the needed technical information and specifications that a builder would need to actually install things, especially like the electrical equipment and wiring and stuff like that. Pricing.
okay.
Having a number associated with this.
And it was our hope that we would have, be able to get a ballpark number so that we know if it's going to be able to, we can do this within the ARPA funds, and have an idea. If not, then we might need to recommend that we add something to the budget to make sure we complete this in the allotted time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Down to Calais.
Oh, of course. I was in Montpelier. So.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I will. Pretty dark. All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda, and we're 2 minutes ahead of schedule, so that just gives us 2 extra minutes to talk with our friend Sheriff Dan Gamlin, who's here with the Chittenden County Sheriff's Office. I see Dan in the back, so welcome, Dan, to the Underhill Selectboard. Hi, Al. Thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's a long ways from Winooski, but hopefully it was uneventful on your way out here.
20 minutes where I live, Colchester.
Okay,
Yeah, so it wasn't that bad.
we're friendlier here.
Yeah. No, I stayed under the speed limit.
There you go.
We've already.
Yeah, I see that.
So you're here tonight because it's always good to have a conversation with you as far as what your thoughts are. And this is our budget season, and we've allocated 10 hours in our budget for you to provide services for the town for a number of years now. And we've gone towards weighing heavy on the radar signs, scattered throughout town, and using that hopefully as a deterrent for people to recognize how fast they really are going, and hopefully that will slow them down. In years past, we've heard that the town of Underhill is deficient as far as the number of hours compared to the rest of the towns in Chittenden County, and that the last recommendation that we heard was that we should be looking at someplace close to 20. So I'll introduce you that way, and hopefully you have some information to share with the board that can give us some insight on what you see and what you might have some recommendations so that we can plan and budget accordingly.
What I did today is I got the stats. I made copies for everybody.
Okay.
So that one is for July to present. The traffic stops in Underhill. These are fiscal year 23 to June 30th.
Okay.
So again, it should be there.
I'll go keep one and then pass.
Last year, July 1st, 23 to June 30th of this year, 130 traffic stops. And it breaks down the roads that all the traffic stops were on. In 2000, fiscal year 23 to June 30th, 24, we billed Underhill $34,417, and you got back $6,000 in fines, basically. So what happens, we wrote $34,000 in fines, and the state reimbursed you $6,000. The percentage used to be higher, but the state has narrowed that gap.
In this zone here, or
Yeah, right here. Okay. Yeah, I give you a copy. So this is for them too.
Yeah.
This year so far, we've had $12,225 in fines, and you got back almost $2,000 from the state. That's on 10 hours a week.
Yep.
So maybe I can ask a question. I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Dan Kelsey. Last time we met as a select board, we talked about the increase in crime that's moving more into Underhill. Can you speak a little bit about that, and what are we talking about with increase?
I can tell you that the more visible we are up here, the deterrent is bigger, larger. An example is next door in Jericho, they've increased their hours to 50 hours a week. And he patrols the neighborhoods in there among the roadways. We have a contract now I have with Winooski Police Department, 24/7 dispatch. We have a deputy that lives up here that is working some of those hours in Jericho. If you were to extend the hour, and he's doing weekends and some nights. So if you were to extend the hours from 10 to 20, we probably could be able to help you there.
Right. So, I mean, I imagine just in logic sense that an increased police presence deters crime, but do we have numbers about the increase of crime that's happened in, say, the last year or 5 years so that we have a sense of what we're actually talking about?
I don't have that because we don't answer 911 calls up here. So
Okay.
I would not have that information. I think state police would have that information.
So that's right. So everyone on the board is clear. The sheriff's office is contracted to provide traffic enforcement, and that's typically about it. It doesn't mean that they don't help out with if we have a natural disaster or something else coming around, but they're contracted for 10 hours for traffic enforcement, not for someone that may have had a break-in or a domestic assault or something like that.
I mean,
if they're,
if we're
if
up
they're
here,
here
yeah,
and something like that comes up, then
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
But, they're not, that's not their primary mission, is to deal with that type of thing. That's the state police, and we are not contracted with the state. We just are blessed with whatever protection and services that they can offer to us. And if we wanted to get the state police to provide that level of service, their hourly rate is much higher, because the last numbers I had were in the neighborhood of the upper $70 to $80 an hour, where I think the sheriff's office is a little bit less than that, type of thing. But I think that there's a difference as far as what you guys are providing. If you were to provide us with more protection, I guess I have in my head that it may cost more too, versus the $50 or $60 an hour that, for, providing traffic, enforcement.
That's correct. I mean, we could get those stats for you through a Valcor system we could try to do that.
If Dan, if others would like to see, crime statistics for Underhill, we can certainly ask for that to be provided so that, we are aware of, how much crime is being reported.
We always get an annual report, I think. I don't know how much detail is in the annual report, but I provided that last year for you. You can check it out, but I'm sure Sheriff Gamble would have a lot better luck.
I would be curious to see this, even if it was last year's information, just for an awareness. Yeah.
Okay.
We can try to get that for you.
So my name's Patty Richards, and one of the questions that I had at our last meeting was we've deployed several of the blinking lights, the radar detection, to help reduce speeding incidents. If I annualize your number, that's about 5 months to project it over to a year. Looks like 113 stops if I use this data to annualize, and that's compared to your full year in this other packet of around 130. So that says to me, the blinking lights are having an effect. It doesn't mean that speeding is not happening. It has reduced it. And the question that I had at our last meeting was, does this mean that the state is very helpful because it answers that question? If the radar detection lights, the blinking lights were, I'm just going to be stress testing and let's say that we had no traffic stops, could we reduce the number of hours? And Bob reported back that, well, we should have some hours for not only traffic stops, but also other crime. So that's the heart, from my perspective, of some of the discussion. My head, this is helpful to get this data. My head is still around keeping roughly the same police presence and not increasing it. But if there's crime statistics that could add more color, I would be interested in that, but I would not want to see more sheriff time, given that the lights are effective and we're trying to work with our community to reduce people speeding, rather than have the heavy hand of you guys doing it in a little softer manner. But I think we still need you for sure, but whether we go to 20 hours or 10, maintain the existing, that's kind of our question that we're trying to answer.
I think when I talked to your town clerk also, she wrote me at the beginning of the year because I manage the highway safety grants for 6 of our counties in the state of Vermont. And I explained to her that possibly in the 25, 26 grant year that we could help you with one of the pole signs, because she was looking at trying to get funding for one of those through our grants. And I told her that we could possibly look at putting that into one of her highway safety grants as of next year's stats, because I have to write next year's budget in May. I said then I would put it in for next year. So we're trying to help you out in that way also.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It'd be great. So what do you think, Dan? Do you think you can give us some more information for
I
a
could
meeting?
try. I mean, I'd have to go through Valcor to do it.
Yeah.
Or would it be, or, not to put the burden on the state police, or would it be easier for them to provide us with that information type of situation? It's like, from where I said, I'm not sure, like, if it matters if we ask you or if we ask them to provide the data, type of thing, so that we can try to make kind of an informed decision as far as like, should we be looking at increasing the number of law enforcement hours here? And then if we are, what would that increase look like as far as an hourly rate, going from just a deputy going from doing something other than traffic to, all out, whatever, Chittenden County Sheriff Deputy, duties can do, type of thing.
I mean, I guess we should ask the state police if we can do that first.
Well, we can run see all the incidents in the state of Vermont, or most of the incidents in the state of Vermont, are run through what's called the Valcor system. It's a CAD system for the state of Vermont. So we could look up Underhill's stats on how many burglaries you had in 2023, and then compare them to 22s or 21s.
Okay. If the board would think that would be helpful, then we can ask Brad to reach out and help obtain that information so that we can have that for future discussion.
That information would be really helpful. In addition, having it for several years. So having an annualized look at it to see if there's any trends or if it's just random, that would be really helpful.
Agreed.
Why is
And Jennifer Sophie, Cat's Finance. Would the hourly rate that you're charging the town of Underhill be different, or if we were to have you say hours that were dedicated, or
No.
So the rate that we have for this year, just so that everyone's clear, is $80 an hour.
Correct.
So it would be the same rate whether they're here for traffic control or not. And I have that written down on
Dan?
Thank you.
On this list of traffic stops, are those all ticketed, or are some warnings, and is there a code as to percentage, or how do you
know.
do that?
No, there's warnings in there. I mean, he's got motorist assist. I mean, there's definitely warnings in there.
Okay.
If you look real close, there's a little smiley face when they got a ticket. Oh, that's just on mine.
I mean, Pleasant Valley Road right up here is where majority of a lot of the fines come from, especially the school zone right here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is there a certain time that you guys are required to be here, within a certain, like 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, or can you schedule that differently? The only reason I ask is I come up Pleasant Valley Road from Canyon to work in the morning at the town garage, and there is a long speed in the morning. They just sail.
Because they know they're not here. Yeah. They know they're not out here.
Right, but
Yeah.
it's not for the passing. They are moving. It'll be for them to get some.
I know Route 15 is the same way. They're doing 75, 80 miles an hour. We're getting calls, complaints. Yeah.
If you ever go to Bridgewater, you can almost be guaranteed, no matter what the time of day it is, there's always a sheriff at Bridgewater near the fire station. And it is 25. And they mean 25.
Oh, he's up at, he's on the road at 6 o'clock every morning. So he's up here. He's up in Westford. Yeah.
I'm talking 5:45, 6 o'clock.
I mean, we can ask him to come out here at 5 in the morning. He'll do it. He will.
It would be good information for you folks too, to see.
And especially if you guys are getting, different complaints, at different times, we don't see that, what I'm saying to you. So we rely on information coming from the town. So if any of the board members happen to hear anything that, want us to address, email the sheriff, what I'm saying, and then we can, talk to Brian about, certain times of days that would be better for.
I know he would surprise some people.
Well, and I think this is helpful in thinking about like how we can approach this holistically and making the most use of the time that we have. And that's why I think using the data from those traffic, the signs that we have of knowing when there's, increased traffic at increased speeds and knowing that that's a great place to target at a specific time. I think we had talked about adding another one of those speed warning things further up Pleasant Valley. I think is one of the things we talked about for the budget for next year. But yeah, with the data, absolutely, because I think that really makes an impact in being able to direct stuff more efficiently. But I also think adding in some of the extra information on increased crime or what else is happening that we can kind of think about the best and most effective way to direct the limited resources that we have of the town in the most effective way. So I think that this would be really helpful. And I really appreciate you guys coming out to share this with us and then kind of continuing to follow up. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for all that you and the rest of the crew do and provide for the town of Underhill. It's very much appreciated. We want to support your mission. It keeps all our residents safe, and we want to try to do the best for everyone with the limited resources and dollars that we do have. And if there is a trend that we need to be made aware of, then it would be good information.
I'll get that information and I'll email it to you.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the Moore Park Pavilion proposal from John and Tom Moore. Yeah, how are you?
Come on up.
Come on up, John.
You can't be heard unless you're at the mic.
So I don't know if we want to wait for Patty to do her famous interpretive dance and wait for your brother to show up, or if we want to start right off, we can do that.
Let's start.
Okay.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, she just wiped her brow and it's good to go. I pick on her every once in a while about doing an interpretive dance, and every time she really looks at me if I'm serious or not. And, every time I'm not serious. So that's right. That's right. She's gonna break out with her. That's right. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
So I've seen the proposal and it looks good to me. I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add to any of it or not.
See what I put together a little.
No, I haven't seen the proposal, so.
Well, it's just a little memo I put.
Oh, yeah.
Just take a second and read that and see if it reflects what you're thinking.
So while you're looking that over, I can tell you I have very fond memories of both your mother and father, who were great people to know. John's father, Ed, was a member of the select board and town moderator. Is that correct?
Yep.
And Mom was on the conservation committee for many years.
Yep.
Planning commission.
Planning commission.
So
We
long
were in
time.
there sanding this floor when we were 12 years old. We were sanding it with power sanders.
Does that about sum it up?
Yeah,
That's what they have.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Basically, we want to do something nice for the town that would look nice, that everybody would think would look nice, and they could have the bands play in it. We thought about doing a multi-sided, like a 6-sided or an 8-sided. We thought about a pavilion, was kind of like an Adirondack post and beam and whatnot. And the more we thought about it, and especially when you look at the skating rink, this kind of country, old Vermont look seemed to be a nice thing, unobtrusive, and it would hopefully fit the bill for the town.
So I really appreciate the gesture and everything like that. I would personally like to support this. And if it's a consensus of the board, or if we want to make a motion that this goes forward to the DRB and goes through the official process, to have something like this placed in the park. I'm looking at you, Brad, to provide me with some guidances, as far as what direction we need to go in and take, or action we need to take as a board.
Well, I think we need, now it's great timing because now the skating rink's up, we can kind of take another look at it. I'll look at it with John and Tom And we do have some surveyors coming in to work on the sidewalk. So I think while they're here, it'll only take like 5 minutes to locate the rink where it sits, and then maybe a proposed position as well as the riverbank. So that's the one little hurdle we have is the riparian buffer off the Browns River. The Millbrook is not a problem, but the Browns River has a 100-foot riparian buffer. But where we're proposing this building is on the lawn anyway, so there's no pristine riparian buffer. It's already on something that's been compromised. So, and then what I would do is, after we all agree that we like the position, then I just run the application by you guys for approval to the DRB.
So you just need a consensus that we would like to proceed, move forward. I'm looking for a consensus.
I'm good with that.
Dan?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Other Dan?
Yes, I'm good with that. One clarification: how large is it proposed to be?
Right now, we're talking about 16 by 20.
Oh wow!
We've been through some different iterations, but fairly small, but large enough to hold a band. Was the idea, and maybe a few picnic tables in the winter for mom and dad while their kids are skating, that kind of thing.
I think it's a great idea.
And so I'm reading in the memo where it said like along the far side of the skating rink, but
So
which is the far side?
It's going to be facing, so as I said, facing Pleasant Valley Road.
Yep.
On the far side of the skating rink.
Okay.
Right. So if picture you're on Pleasant Valley, it'll be on the back side of the skating rink.
Got it. Okay.
Parallel with the town hall, same orientation.
Okay.
Basically, if you look straight across the skating rink, right there.
Right there. Got it.
Just with some free space, and then it'd be sitting there.
That'll look great.
Thank you.
Great.
Will you put some sort of plaque up to honor your parents, just so
That was the idea.
the new
Yeah.
folks
Yeah.
come in can say, it's really important to honor your parents and your service to the town. And I would love to see
My mother talked about this for a long time, and we just didn't get to it while she was still with us. But Tom and I decided that, town willing, we'd like to do it.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to support that vision.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So we will proceed in that direction, and then I'm sure we'll have more conversations, but I appreciate you coming in tonight. I'm sorry you missed out on the interpretive dance. You'll have to tell your brother that it was quite entertaining, and maybe we'll be blessed with his presence next time.
Well, if I come in next time, I'll join you with the dance.
Okay. Very good. Great.
I'll get a hold of you when the surveyors are down.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
We're all set. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Next thing. 6:53, we're ahead of schedule, Patty. Bridge number 7, Pleasant Valley Road, Dean Road, replacement discussion, Cricket McCluster.
So we're waiting for Cricket. I don't know if maybe it would be a good time if you wanted to go out of order and maybe do Russ's tire chain request.
If Russ is here, hey, Russ is willing.
So first of all, I just, again, would like to thank you guys for coming to the town garage last week. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was a little chilly towards the end, but I think it was great for everybody to come up and see what we have for equipment and a building and so on. And again, just want to thank you for taking the time to make that little change in your routines. Second thing, there's an old saying my dad used to say is everything happens for a reason. And last week when he requested that I got some more information, I'm glad I did. So the lesser expensive chains, I contacted the company, which is locally in St. Johnsbury, as local as we can get for these vendors, and had a nice talk with him. And he gave me I asked him for some references for other towns that were using them. And several of the towns he gave me, I know these people and so on. So I gave them a call, and they've been very happy with these brands of chains. And then talking with the crew about it a little bit more, they were open to trying this brand of chain. So it'll save us a considerable amount of money. So I did get 3 different prices, which you can see in your packet. And our recommendation is to purchase the OFA chains from Reed Supply in St. Johnsbury for $4,205.
So I'd like to make a motion that we go with Russ's recommendation and authorize that we spend $4,205
Yes.
For the purchase of chains for our road equipment. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Can we change the amount to a little higher in case there's any tax or something that pops up that I don't want you to have to come back?
There'll be no tax.
There's no tax.
The $5 is actually a $5 delivery fee. So I think
Okay.
we're
As long-
safe
if you're-
with that.
If you think that number is fine, then I'll pull back on my.
Yeah, I think I'm safe with that.
And that was 2 sets, right, for each truck?
That is 2 cents for each truck and some extra for when they parts.
So that's total.
That's
4,000.
total.
Yep. Any other discussion? Ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed with a nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks for looking into that, Russ. I'm glad that worked out.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Russ, for the extra effort. They're really appreciated.
Sure. Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Cricket has joined us online.
Oh, great.
She's down in Rochester, so didn't want to ask her to come up, but I would like to invite Mike and Russ to come up to the table because I think it's if you're willing to accept that. Mike's on the infrastructure committee.
Rochester, it's really flat there too, just like Underhill. So I'm glad
Yeah,
that she's
right.
able to join us.
Can you hear us okay, Cricket?
It cut out for a moment, but I can hear you now.
Okay.
She's in that section of Vermont that has that Bee Mountain National Forest, Brad.
Right. Sorry, they're picking on you, Cricket, from where you are. But I'll just give a little preview here of as we enter the budget cycle, we're looking at Bridge 7, and Cricket has done the evaluations on it, and she was just out here recently. I'll let her speak to that, but I think my goal and our goal here is to get a game plan on how we're going to move forward to replace this bridge. So, after Cricket speaks about the bridge, I also want to talk seriously about commencing the bonding process because it's and I did give you a cost estimate that Cricket provided to us with some more recent numbers, but I'll let her speak to that. So that's just what I'm thinking. We need to get a status on the bridge and then come up with a game plan on how to replace this.
Great, thank you. Cricket, you're welcome.
Turn it off.
Yeah, we're not hearing your Cricket.
Okay, I can hear you now. My connection seems to be going in and out. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I missed what was just said prior to just now.
Oh, I was just thinking that Cricket, I was just giving her a preview that we kind of wanted to hear from you about the state of the bridge and maybe
Yeah,
outline-
absolutely.
outline a timeline. It may be better to call in Cricket on the phone. I'll text you right now. I see your back, Cricket. You want to try again? Or I was going to suggest you might want to call too.
I'm having a lot of trouble.
Yeah, can you just try the phone number? Just call on a hard line or some line, the phone. I don't want to really start with her, but is there, oh, here she's back.
I'm gonna call in. I think that'll work better, Brad.
Definitely.
Okay. Give me a moment here. I can't talk right now.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yay!
I think you may want to just disconnect your other, where you try to get on your computer.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the computer. Alrighty, terribly sorry. We have quite a good, I don't know, rain snowstorm going on right now, so I think that's probably what's going on with my service. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so Brad, you had asked for just kind of a summary of where the bridge is at right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think just inform the board, we're kind of what our timeline, thinking about the timeline of replacement.
Yeah, yep. Actually, Mike just sent a good timeline that he had put together with, I think, the roads committee. Basically, it's, it has been for a while on the as soon as possible time frame. And as you know, and you've probably passed along to most folks at this meeting, you applied for the structures grant last year, but due to not having the bonding set up and some other odd issues that actually Brad knows better than I, they rejected the application because they felt like it wasn't shovel ready, even though it's hard to get shovel ready when you don't know if you've gotten the structures grant. So it's a chicken and the egg thing, and typically structures grants are applied for before you've gone to the trouble of getting easements, and especially bonding. Lending institutions don't like to bond things if they don't know the project's going to move forward. So it's this difficult position to be in. But Brad and I decided moving forward, okay, we're going to apply again this coming year because obviously this needs to be done as soon as possible. And in order to avoid the situation that VTrans kind of oddly placed the town in last spring, we're going to have all the easements and permits basically the stream alteration permit and the Army Corps of Engineers permit, both very straightforward, nothing difficult or out of the ordinary or particularly onerous, and also usually applied for after the structures if you've got funding. So I'm really not sure why VTrans did that to the town last spring, but they did. So moving forward, we've decided, okay, we'll get the permits in place, the stream alterations permit, the Army Corps permit, and the landowner easements for temporary disturbance on abutting lands. And I haven't looked at the easement map in a while. There may be a very small section of permanent easement needed. I have to look back at that. The civil engineer that I've been working in conjunction with, Tyler Billingsley, put the easement maps together, so he's a little bit more familiar with those. But basically all of that kind of permit easement stuff is underway and going to be checked off the list this winter, so that when we do go to apply again for the structures grant application from VTrans in, I think it's April, March or April, when those are due, then they won't be able to hold that over our heads again. Well, you don't have this ready, you don't have this ready, try again. So this time we'll say, no, we get all of our ducks in a row plus some. And so the last duck that apparently they wanted to be in the row was the bonding, which again is incredibly difficult to kind of apply for when you don't know how much money you need to bond. But it sounds like we kind of need to move forward and do the best we can to estimate that if we got the structures grant for such and such amount and the project is estimated to cost this amount, then the bond we need is what's left, and go forward with trying to secure, I guess, maybe a promise to lend. I'm actually not. I don't have a lot of experience with municipal bonding. So Brad, do you want to fill in any gaps or add to that before I keep going?
Yeah, I just thinking we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're on speakerphone or not, but we're just having a little bit of hard time. Yeah, so I can just. Did everybody catch what Cricket said? Pretty much.
It's difficult to hear. But go ahead.
I could just paraphrase. So basically, what Cricket was saying that last year we applied for the structures. So to back up, way back a little bit. We had a structures grant in hand for Mountain Road for a box culvert that was over the Harvey Brook. We were really surprised to get that grant. But then at the same time, Bridge 7 was deteriorating rapidly. So we made the decision to give the Mountain Road grant back and just do some repairs on the box culvert, which I think in hindsight was a really good idea because that structure is bomb proof. It's really thick concrete. Cricket agreed. Russ and John Angelino and the road crew did a nice support the wing wall. In my opinion, that should serve us well for quite a few years. In doing that, we were told by VTrans that we would be put in better position for the Pleasant Valley grant. So they were ready to award us the grant last year, but Jim Cota, the district manager, said, well, do you have your bonding approved? And we're like, well, no, we want to secure the grant and then know how much the grant is going to be, and then we'll go for the bond. So, like, for example, so when we apply for a structures grant, usually in the winter, and we know after town meeting, usually in April, I think, if we were awarded.
Later than that.
Yeah, a little later, maybe May.
June. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's more like you apply in April and find out about it in June.
Right. So in June, but the kicker is the grant's like ready to go that July. It's almost instantaneous, but this is so common with the state. They throw a grant at us, but we're not prepared we haven't budgeted for anything. We're not prepared. We're looking a year out. They're looking
Well,
like,
you can't really put it out to bid
right.
until you know if you've got funding. So then you're in a position where you have to scramble to put something out to bid in June, asking contractors to start immediately, which is just
because the echo is awful.
I know, but it's not. Try that again, Cricket. See if that's better.
Can you hear me now?
That's a lot better.
Yeah, that is a lot better.
A lot better. Yeah, I was adding that it's an impossible situation they put you in because they want you to wait until June to find out if you have the funding, and then that doesn't give you time to put it out to bid and get started in July 1st. So you have to basically find out 1 year in June, do your bidding, and then start construction the following year.
So the thought process here is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we would commence the bonding process to get that question, the bond question, on for town meeting day, March. At the same time, we'd be applying for the structures grant through VTrans. So we're going to take a guess at like, okay, the structures grant has been typically 200,000. That was what the Mountain Road grant was. So we can count on, or try to count on 200,000, and then bond 500, say, and then once the bond passed in March, we have the grant. There's still not enough time to put it out to bid and construct it. So we'd be looking at putting it out to bid, right, in maybe the fall, and then constructing it the following year.
April 26th.
Right.
Exactly.
Fiscal year 27
Mike's schedule said April for begin construction, but obviously because it's a stream project, we can't begin until July. But right. The construction earliest it could happen under any circumstances, given finding funding and putting it out to bid after you know the project can be funded, would be summer 2026.
Yeah.
But in order to even get construction summer 2026, we need the bonding, easements, and structures grant in line in 2025.
So Mike and I have started the easement process. We met with one person, and I've been in contact with the other. So we'll continue to work on that. I will review the applications for the for the stream alteration permit and send those in to Tyler tomorrow. And so right. So those balls are rolling. We're going to need some legal fees to take care of the easements.
Yep.
But I think we really need to pursue. We just need to start. I talked to Bob Fletcher. He's the principal at our law firm, and he's the one that handles the bonding. He said, just give me the word and we can get started. This is all a process through the select board, right?
Yep.
And he said we definitely have time to get on the ballot for March, but we need to move probably pretty quickly at this point.
Brad, the number that you would pursue for the bonding, I know it's a guess because we don't know how much we're going to get for the structures grant. Can we apply for the full amount? And then if we don't, when we get the structures grant, then only borrow what we need?
That'd be a question for Bob Fletcher, I think, to see how, if the bond question could be up to a certain amount.
Exactly,
right,
because otherwise it's just this wild guess of here's the number.
Well, Cricket has a breakdown of.
I know, but
it's easier to ask for less than to ask for more later. So that might be a great idea. Bond up to
number, because it would be awful. It would be awful if we went through this whole process and we were 100,000 short.
Yeah.
Then what do we do?
Sell tickets.
Interpretive dance.
That's right.
We do have contingency and reserves for this sort of thing, and we can have that conversation. I think the main takeaway is, and then I would just like Cricket to talk about too, that, you know, we had talked about maybe turning that bridge into one way. So I don't know how you feel about it, Cricket,
One way
if
or
you've
one
changed
lane?
your mind, but
You said one lane or one way?
well, not one way, one way traffic, one lane traffic, one lane.
So the question is, what is the condition of the bridge at this point in time for safety? Cricket?
It is been deteriorating pretty significantly over the past 5 years. The bridge inspection reports still show it to be in drivable condition. I would be interested in, we had an additional look by VTrans last year, 2023, even though that's not an even year. The even years are the inspection years for the town long structures greater than 20 feet. I don't know if a 2024 inspection was done. Last time Brad and I talked, we were I think Brad was gonna reach out to VTrans to find out if the 2024 one had been done. It hasn't been posted on their website. I would certainly like some more feedback from VTrans about how they would like it to be handled in this interim period, because the deterioration continues pretty quickly on the exterior girders, so the downstream and upstream girder. The interior ones are not so bad, which is why single lane might be a good option in the meantime. I also know that that would be difficult and costly at that location, so I don't want to necessarily require it if VTrans doesn't see the need for it. They look at bridges daily and know the conditions of other bridges in this same kind of category. And if they don't think that's necessary, I don't aim to overrule them, but I would like some guidance. So Brad and I were thinking of reaching out to VTrans for some additional guidance in that regard. Have you done that, Brad, or would you like me to?
No, I haven't. But what Cricket's talking about, when we had the flood, the big flooding in Cambridge last year in July, Bob was up at the EOC and put in a request to have because we were getting a lot of truck traffic coming through here because Route 15 was closed. So Bob put in a request to have another inspection done. The inspection was done. We read it pretty thoroughly. There were some slight modifications to it, but they still say, they were still standing strong that it was in fair condition. But
This is the 2024 inspection?
2023.
This is the 23 one. Okay,
last
sorry.
flood we had in last summer of 23 when Cambridge got mauled and Route 15 was closed. Everybody was coming through here. But Cricket's you had a story, I think, where you said sometimes it's like the axe just drops, it's fair. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, nope, this thing is shot,
Yeah, and it's really hard
Go ahead.
to predict, right? The National Bridge Inspection Program folks are trained in deciding when is too much deterioration, too much. I would like to, so if Brad, if you'd like, I can reach out to VTrans myself, although the request holds more weight coming from the municipality to say, hey, where is your 2024 report? Typically you would give us one in an even year, even though you did give us one last year. If you have done one, can we see it? If you haven't, can you do one, please? Because, honestly, thanks to your, meaning VTrans, kind of runaround that you gave us last year when we applied for the structures grant, we are now another year out and would like some guidance as to how to handle a continuing deterioration of the structure, given that we're a year out in funding because of the position you put us in,
I guess I'm just getting the sense that
there's a sense of urgency that this really needs to be taken care of. And whether or not we have days, weeks, months, years, I'm not hearing like we have a decade, type of thing.
Right.
And so we have, and I'm not hearing like days or weeks, or months, but, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, who knows what
Right.
we're going to be dealt, as far as, weather and how much, salt is going to be put down because of, ice and everything like that, and how that's going to impact, and how much traffic is going to be put on that bridge. I mean, it's old. I guess.
Exactly. It's in the reason they are a little bit more cavalier about it is because they have probably 100 bridges in a very similar, very tender, very old, very in need of pretty much immediate replacement, condition. So it's, when you say, but can you, this one is really bad. They say, yep, we've got a lot that are really, and it's hard to know, well, how bad is too, when do we go to single lane? And that's, to be honest, that's something they're more well-versed at than I, the folks that actually do the bridge inspection reports. So I think they are probably our best resource for, hey, where are you feeling this one's at in terms of this last year of its life? Before, yes, we have the ball rolling for replacement. Yes, we have all our ducks in a row. We're doing absolutely everything we can to replace this as soon as possible. But do you see some immediate, temporary loading restrictions needed? If you don't, meaning VTrans, I don't intend to overrule them. If they do, then certainly we want to hear them. So I think reaching out, and probably, honestly, the person who would carry the most weight, Brad, is someone from the municipality reaching out, as opposed to me, to say, hey, where's your 2024 report? And if you didn't do one, can you make a visit? Because you can request that.
So I guess I'm just going to say, like, I see that we're at a fork in the road. I see that, no pun intended, that I think it's pretty clear that we need to take action. It's just now a matter of, what preventative measures do we need to take in order to try to get this to last as long as possible. And we're trying to get information from the state to see if they can help us with that information to answer that question. In the meantime, I don't know that it makes any sense to delay the progress or, going forward with a bond and trying to get money from the state to help us with a structures grant. Whether we apply now or we apply a year from now, I think we're still going to have to do it.
I don't know. I think if we.
Oh, we have to do both. We have to do everything
Right.
we can at this point, both apply for the structures grant.
We can obtain that information from the state.
We know how this process works. We've done it a bunch of times.
Well, then
we just need to move forward and do it. I will check Cricket about the inspection report. The only thing I can say, I think if something was serious, I think if they were out there and inspected it and something had, their opinion had drastically changed, we would have heard something.
Yeah, no, you would have heard it. And the ones I've seen that all of a sudden popped into the red zone, the town heard immediately. So, I still assume that we're in a position where they either didn't do their 2024 report, or if they did, it would just stayed in that same category of, yep, it needs to be replaced soon, and the town's working towards that.
Great. So the consensus of the board is going to be to instruct Brad to move forward with exploring the bond option with the attorney, and then report back to the board. Is that the census that I'm getting from everybody? Is that?
Yes.
Yes. And would it be the determination of the state who would decide if it needs to go to one lane traffic, or is that?
What Cricket is saying is, and I can share the inspection reports with you next meeting, but what Cricket is saying is if the inspection report is dramatically changed, then we would ask VTrans, hey, this is dramatically changed. Do you recommend that we take this down to like one-way traffic?
Okay.
Or one lane traffic. And we would basically
Yeah,
set up a,
until this point, they've kind of been, okay, no posting required, no further action
Right.
required, but replace it immediately, which is, you know, it's ambiguous and it's hard to know what, other than obviously taking every possible step to replace it as soon as possible. It does leave you a little bit unsure of what they would like to see in a temporary condition.
and we have taken measures to no overweight permits on the bridge. So we've already taken one big step.
So I think we're in a good spot. We've answered the question that we're going to move forward with exploring the bond option. We're going to make contact with VTrans to see if we need to make any additional changes. If they have any recommendations, stay in contact with VTrans, and we're going to continue to monitor this. Is there anything else that I'm missing that we need to talk about? about Bridge
No,
7?
but I would just like, Mike, are we missing anything?
No,
Or
I don't think so. I think, as you said before, I'm not sure why this whole program changed, meaning we have to get the bond and the permits and the easements ahead of the state grant, but that's just the way it is. So I think we should move forward with those three things, and I think we'll certainly be able to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do it regardless, right?
We're going forward.
So
Yeah.
it's like, So this is.
Yep, all of these
Brilliant.
jobs has to be done, and I think the balls are rolling on all of those counts. So there's nothing, no, you know, outstanding decisions. We all know where we need to go and what steps need to be taken, and Brad's on top of Brad and Tyler and I are on top of it.
Yeah. I'll copy you, Cricket, tomorrow when I reach out to VTrans for the report.
Thank you, Cricket, very much. Appreciate your time, and
Thank you.
hopefully you don't
Yeah,
get
sorry
snowed
for the
in.
connection issues. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Take
All
care.
right. So we've done the Bridge 7 now. We've done the town highway truck chains. Now we're up to, thank you, Mike, for coming in tonight. Appreciate your staying late. We're at the, consider the calendar year 25 health plan options. Jennifer's still here. We're still 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Yeah, so far so good, right? Jennifer, you're getting around very well.
Better when I'm better when I move around.
Get her a soccer ball.
Stitches come out next Tuesday, so. Okay, medical plan. So, panic set in when I heard a couple months ago that they were looking at high double-digit increases up to 20% on medical insurance. No secret to anyone who's paying for medical insurance. So I met with the town contracts with Acrisure, which used to be Hickok and Boardman. They're insurance brokers. There's no secret to anyone in Vermont, but there's two big players. There's MVP and there's Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont. Since I've been finance officer and HR admin, going on 6 years here, we have gone from Blue Cross to MVP and back to Blue Cross. So typically what happens is they one goes for a bigger bump increase 1 year, and then the next year the other one goes, and they play this flip-flop game to try and get people, businesses, to switch back and forth and hopefully retain them. This year, Blue Cross Blue Shield, in order to stay in the plan that we have, was a 19% increase to stay in the silver plan that we're currently in. And this is this is specific to our census. So, you know, if you had because the increase varies depending on whether it's an individual or a family plan or two people. So, of course, I had to ask them, well, what if we went to MVP? What would that be? Because that's the game to play. And it was 10%. So significantly different. And then Gail from Acrisure said, oh yeah, but next year, if you switch to MVP, next year, Blue Cross and Blue Shield is already asking for more of an increase than MVP. Because they kind of know what they're planning in the future. So that, you know, you can play that game where you switch flip flop back and forth. And she said, you've never gone out onto the market before, which is the captive insurance market. She said, but I looked at your claims and I think you might be a contender for this. And the worst that can happen is they say, no, we won't fund it. We won't do it. I don't know if you know about captive insurance, but it's a different kind of insurance. It doesn't affect the employees at all, but it's just a different way of calculating the insurance. And so she said, let me send it out to Blue Edge for Business. And she sent it out and they came back and said that we are very favorable. So they will not make an offer to do this Blue Edge for Business if it's a high risk group. But we have according to them, a young, healthy census of people who are on the plan. So if we were to switch to that, the downside is at the end of next year, they might, if we have high claims, they could say, oh, we aren't going to renew, which would only put us in the same situation that we're in now, which is, okay, are we going to go with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the regular plan, or are we going to switch to MVP? So it wouldn't put us in any bad situation. So those are the three scenarios that you have here. One is renewal at the current plan, which is a 19% increase, no change to anything for the employees, but cost the town estimated 19%, which includes the HRA portion that we pay. The other would be to switch to MVP, which has a huge impact on the employees because it's switching to a completely different insurance company, completely different HRA, different prescription plan, possibly different doctors, different rules, etc., different new cards, new everything. But a significant, only 10% increase, which is funny that we're saying that that's a good thing because it's kind of crazy. Or the third option, which is to go with the Blue Edge for Business, and the employees wouldn't notice really any difference because it's a Blue Cross Blue Shield product. They would get a new card and a new number, but same providers would be included. It's actually more of a gold plan, which just means that it's configured slightly differently. And it has a lower deductibles. So the HRA contribution potential for the town, that cost goes down. It's 12%, so it's a little bit more than if we were to switch to MVP, but again, less impact on the employees. And then the upside of the level funded captive self-insured plan versus the fully insured plan is that at the end of the year, if our claims are lower than they guessed they would be, because this is based on an estimate, they take our estimated cost for the year and they divide it by 12. If it ends up being less, we get that money back. So if we can encourage everyone to stay really healthy, not get sick, exercise, eat well, etc., everyone who's on the plan, we might actually also get some money back. So those are the three options.
What if it's more?
Then they'll dump us for the next year.
So we're capped at the
yes,
at the 154,000 change. Okay.
So it can't be more, but they can say, "Oh man, forget it."
So thank you for all this information.
So those are the three. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that we can only obtain a 1-year contract for health insurance. So there's no advantage or there's no option to buy like a 2-year or 3-year lock-in with someone for a certain price.
No, it's renewable every year.
So for the sake of argument, based on the recommendation, I'm going to move that we accept Jennifer's recommendation and go with the blue, what did we call it?
Blue Edge for Business.
Blue Edge, the captive plan for the town employees. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any discussion?
Just a note that I happened to be meeting with Jennifer about the budget when she was talking with the people from Acrisure. So I heard some of what they were talking about in terms of what would be a challenge and what would be a benefit to the town. And I think them as advisors to help you as you navigate through this is like worth every cent. They were great in terms of thinking about what is helpful to the town, what is beneficial to the overall budget. And it does really sound like this captive insurance model, given the group of employees that we have that are insured, seems like it can be a really good fit. You know, there's no way to know what everybody's health is going to look like in the upcoming year. But I think this seems like it's, you know, since there's no way to decrease the cost or keep it the same, this seems like it's a good model. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of moving with the captive insurance, the Blue, what's it
Blue
called?
Edge for Business.
Blue Edge for Business plan, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
The next thing on the agenda is to discuss the IT services and upgrades for fiscal year 26. Brad, I assume that you're going to be able to talk to us about that a little bit.
So right after our last meeting, I got right after Tech Group and had a long meeting with them. And Dave Boera there, he's one of the oldest sales guys there, kind of put a few things together. And I'm not expecting you to approve this right now because I have some more questions. So if you look at the Saturday, November 16th email where he said, the other items you may want to get quotes on are hardware for the town owns. So the first item is the server. So we moved, our email moved to Microsoft 365, which is total cloud-based, which is great. But all of our data in this town is kept on the server, right? We don't let that into the cloud. It's the server's backed up every night by Tech Group, but that's all our information. There's 15 years worth of really important data on that we use all the time. We're on the all day, every day. So that was purchased, I think, in 2017. And he said that in October of 25, it's no longer going to be eligible for security patches. That's not to say that they can't continue to service it, but Microsoft, being in their classic monopoly that's the end of their patches, security patches. So I would like, if the board is interested in getting a quote for that, I would like to get a quote for what that would be, because here, we're dealing with next fiscal year. We get to October 25. I don't want to have a surprise expense come up and say, oh, we need $15,000 for a new server. So if the consensus is, I'd like to get a hard quote on that.
That's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
So the PCs, during the Elger grant with COVID, we all got new laptops. I think we're totally fine with that. We can milk another year or two out of those. I don't think it's necessary to, even though he was kind of slightly hinting at replacing every 5 years, I think we're okay to get one more year out of it.
Brad, several companies that I've worked for have a standing phase process where every year they buy X number of computers and they phase it through. So that way there's not some 1 year you have to buy 10 computers. You're constantly having the same purchase cost going out through your budget. It just stabilizes the whole process.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for us to do now because with the Elger grant, we replaced them all at once.
Right.
So
We did used to do that.
Something to think about.
But laptops are pretty reasonable price, so to buy, we only have 5. Russ has a brand new one. You just got it last year, or this year, actually. Anyway, so the network, he talked about the Sonic Wall, and that's another quote we have. So the Sonic Wall is your first line of defense when it comes to security, right? So I'm gonna get some more information from them about if they recommend we really should replace that or not. The network switch, if you remember, we did upgrade that. So that was something I don't think David was aware of, but we have a brand new switch, 48 port switch. We're in good shape there. There's some wireless stuff we could think about, but I think the main thing is the server and the Sonic wall. Then if we go back to the 365, so they put together so that I have two things in your packet. One was the Sonic wall, and the other, this is kind of their managed care services renewal. So that was the packet, and before I have them fine tune this, basically it's a monthly service right now of $1,500 a month. Included in that, we have 15 licenses for Microsoft 365. So we have the premium license, which all of us have. That includes Word and Excel and all the software. You have, the select board has what's called the basic plan. Russ has the premium plan. But we had talked about having each of the chairs of the committees having a Underhill account. So, and basically it's roughly around $33 a month for the basic. So that's the backup, that's the security with the email, and one other thing, but it's kind of a package deal, and it's a monthly charge. We could, if we do an annual charge, we could save a little money. But it's important, I think, when we get a public records request, especially from the DRB or from the Planning Commission. So the thought was each of the chairs would have this email account. So they generate, they initiate all the emails, right, to their committee members. So if the chair initiates an email and everybody responds to the chair, then we've captured that whole conversation, right? So
if we're going to do this, then we need to make it clear, and there needs to be policy that says that this is the official email that has to be used. There can't be a separate pseudo Gmail or Hotmail or Outlook account. Like, it has to go through this account just for that reason.
Yes, absolutely. That's just for that reason. Because right now, if we had a public records request, we'd have to go into someone's personal, computer, and I don't think that's a great idea.
It happened when we had something and I had to go back into my animal control Underhill Animal Control at Comcast account, which was attached to my personal account, because that's what I used for the last 20 something years until we got the Underhill one. So it happens, and I had to go back and find records that were not easy to find.
And I'm assuming that it could be even more challenging if someone left and then you couldn't get the information. It's just like you lose control.
Right, exactly. And that's the whole reason of switching to Microsoft 365. The emails are no longer on the server. They're in the cloud. We can gain access to them anytime. So then we have the chairs. Basically, there's roughly 6. We would do Planning Commission, all the chairs. And then we have Jennifer has a separate one for animal control. And then us here, Russ. They did have so when they quoted us with usernames, they had the road crew on there. So they had one for Scott, one for Dwayne, one for Ken wasn't on there yet. But I'm not sure why that was. Because really, like, all the email, if there's correspondence, it gets disseminated through Russ, and then Russ would then relay that to the road crew. So that's one thing you should discuss. I'm not sure I've ever heard of a municipality where every single employee has an email address, but maybe it happens. So that's one thing I'd like to know.
Do we want to have it name based, or we want to have it for like position based, like town administrator at underhillvt.com?
Oh yeah, it's going to be
not necessarily Brad Holden or not.
Yeah. Well, we have to keep our emails the same because they've been the same since we've been here. But if you're going to start out with say you wanted to add the road crew, for example, right? You would have to do it name-based. But the zoning office, I have made that, it's called zoning admin at underhillvt.gov. Same with the plants, animal control is, but personally, us here, we can't go on to like admin it. We could, but I think it would really create a big mess right at this point.
I think we need to transition that way.
Okay.
You know, not us saying overnight, but I think that we need
Yeah.
to, Lester, we really need to go in that direction that it's based on position, not based on person.
That's fine, but then I would just argue, or not argue, but I just give you the flip side of that. When you do have a person, then you know who that person was that was dealing with that situation versus an admin. Now you're looking up, if you're trying to find something in the Brian Bigelow era, for example, you know where to go, right? I would hate to, we had some problems. Somehow Brian's email got disconnected. We lost, we were not receiving emails from the state. We lost out on grant opportunities. I understand, and we can go any way you want to go, but I don't want to lose anything, and I don't want to be behind the 8 ball anywhere. It's not worth it.
I trust your judgment, Brad. So it's just like, if you think that we ought to do it one way or the other, I got it.
But the zoning admin, perfect sense. You know, that's a position where there's a lot of turnover, you know.
And with the committee
Potentially.
chairs, I'm assuming it would be like, you know,
Yeah.
like those would just be like the name of the committee chair.
Exactly.
Those would not change with the person.
Yeah, PC chair at Underhill
Yeah.
VT or something like that. Definitely. Yeah. So I guess what I'd like to know is if you're good with all of us on the premium makes sense, and then you all have emails and the chairs of the committees, who else? Who else gets the email?
Russ, do the do the guys use or need town email addresses? Is that
No, I don't think they do, nor they would probably want one.
okay?
I had just, when I first took this position, I had brought it to the attention that maybe we could do it that way if there was something that we wanted to get out to every employee. It's the same information get out to every employee. It's something we had done in our business. All the employees had an email. It worked good if we needed to get something out to all the employees.
Mhm.
In this situation, I don't think we need to. I think anything come to me and I can disperse it to the guys.
Okay, thanks.
So if that's the consensus, I will get back with Dave, and the next time we meet, I will have a firm.
The only other one that I can think of is that, you know, the possibility of like, I don't know if the Historical Society should have one or not.
They're not they're not technically an official like committee of this town. They're their own entity. So, but one thing I think about animal control, maybe Don Toby as tree warden, I think would be appropriate. And certainly Deb Moore as health officer.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
So
Does the town moderator do enough communication that would need to be something or no?
I don't think so. It's usually
like a pretty
no.
minimal
Yeah,
thing.
good
Yeah.
thought though, but I
But
think it's
okay.
pretty minimal. And then maybe we'll think of some others.
Probably Inoki.
Right, the cat needs one for sure. Chewy.com.
So you're going to get back to us on more information about that?
So the next time I come through, I'm gonna have a proposal, and maybe I'll write it. I'll have everything in there.
Sounds good.
So we'll go for it.
So now we can talk about the fiscal year 26 budget version 2.
Things are getting really exciting. We got how many minutes? Speaking of Vermont Muni Madness himself, Inoki.
You heard us talking about.
Okay, he said he wants to make sure he's got enough food in the budget. So version 2. just so you know, some years we've had 11 versions. So we're on track. I already started version 3, which is the one that goes after this one. So a couple of things, assumptions that have been made, and I'll move quickly again, but stop me as we go. All salaries are still at the 2.5%. I will put the medical plan in for version 3. Surplus funds was the other thing that I will have a firm surplus number for you in version 3. I'll give you the surplus number, but I won't be able to tell you what our surplus is until we have a total of our expenses, because the surplus we have is based on the unassigned fund balance we have at the end of fiscal year 24, but then we take 15% of our operating budget for 26 and we put that into an emergency fund. So we always retain 15%. So until I know what our operating budget is, or at least a ballpark, I can't really tell you what I think the surplus funds are. But I can tell you that it will be in great excess of $300,000 that we'll be working with for a surplus. And I'll explain why when we meet next.
So Jennifer, that number should be close to the 344 that we approved for the ARPA dollars?
No, this is in addition to the ARPA.
It's in addition.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then the capital group that you had asked to meet met several times. I think we met 4 times maybe. One of our members didn't make any. I didn't mention any names. One of the members was removed. But anyway, I did include that also, which just basically is the list of capital related expenses for the fiscal year 26, which I included in your packet as well. And then the last thing I want to do before we run out of time and Bob starts giving me the countdown is I think that based on where we're at on this and the fact that we've got Thanksgiving next week and then we have Christmas at the end of the next month, and then we have to have this completely wrapped up by the end of the first week in January. So we're winding down here. I think that it would be great if you could consider having a special meeting on December 5th. And then also on the 19th. And Brad informed me that we probably wanted to reschedule your 26th, December 26th one anyway, because it's the day after Christmas. So that one could be a regular scheduled meeting, but I just want to plant that seed that when you talk about scheduling after this, that we need some more time to keep moving this budget forward.
And the 5th could be just
Budget
only.
Yeah.
No
So we
other
could really
business.
hash out get a lot done then. But anyway, that's for when you do your scheduling. So you'll see in the budget highlighted in yellow is what changed from version 1 to version 2. Some of it, the whole first section, lines 10 through 37. Patty made a recommendation or suggestion, and I did that. I went and looked at the 3-year rolling average for the revenues that were where it was appropriate to do that. So a lot of those are those changes. So the example, the delinquent tax interest, we didn't put 4,000, we put 2,758. That was the exact rolling average. Some items we don't do that because there's other factors that are involved, or they're numbers that were given from the state, or we know there's a reason why it might be different than that. So that's the first few. Line 27, transfer in ARPA, still not putting anything in there yet. And that doesn't matter because anything that's transferred in from ARPA is going to get spent on the expense side, so it doesn't affect us for any reason because it's a plus and a minus. Line 28 on that first page, the bottom of the first page, highway miscellaneous income, you're going to see that drop down to 6,000. or it's increased to 6,000. So I looked at the rolling average, and then, and the reason that it's been higher in other years is because we tend to sell equipment. There is no equipment expected to be sold next year. So there was really no reason for us to inflate that number at all. Let's see, moving on to number 37, which is miscellaneous income. I'll change there. The Beartown lease is now included in that, so that's in there. And that one's got a lot of accounts included in that one. So there's a lot of little miscellaneous things. That's why it's called miscellaneous. Next one that changed, that's significant. Oh, use of surplus. I just threw a number in there. But we're going to talk about that next time. So
In that surplus, there's also that 100,000 we put into reserves.
Yep.
The year before last, or was it last year? I can't remember.
But that's not use of surplus.
Last year. No, I'm just saying we were talking about the surplus number, but it might be 100 grand inflated because of that was supposed to go into reserves, or you've already accounted for that.
No, that's already accounted for. Okay. That went into reserve. That's in restricted funds. The next one that changed, 65. Oh, the next one that I think we need to look at is 65, which is that select board contingency line. And I can be prepared to come with several years of detail and provide you with that ahead of time. That's kind of like that catch-all for the select board. So sometimes it goes way over. Like last year it went, or 2 years ago it was at 27,000. So I'll give you guys a detail on that, but it's really rarely at 10,000. So I think we need to look at increasing it a little bit. So I put it to 12, which is, an increase, but, there just seems to be things like the FEMA buyout on Dumas Road, like we had expenses associated with that weren't covered by the grant.
Right, we did have some.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
there's always like little things that come up that we don't expect. So I would propose that we add a couple thousand to that
Could
line.
we back up for just a second on the legal fees, 61? I think this is something to consider, upping that. We've talked about doing some discontinuances of highways. We do have the FEMA buyout, right? So that we're going to incur some expense, but we're going to get reimbursed for those expenses. Who knows what's going to happen on the Park Street Mill property? I don't know. It just seems like and the bond. Yeah. Well, that would be in this fiscal year, but,
right.
But anyway, it's just something to maybe
Good
consider.
point, though. Right. So, if you can let me know at the next meeting, if you want to put some thought into that one, we can definitely change that for version 3 or 4. I think that's a really valid point. Okay, here's a big change. Line 84 and 85. And I think I don't want to speak on this one, but I would recommend that if we do have that meeting on the 5th, that maybe we bring Sherry in to talk about this. Although I think it could be a somewhat difficult conversation, an emotionally charged conversation. Sherry's really been looking towards retirement, and her friends and work family have been pushing her to make sure that we're planning ahead so that we can start to get someone else trained. It's easy to be a town clerk and to be a town treasurer, but the institutional knowledge is, priceless. So I finally got Sherry to say, okay, fine, put it in the budget. So you're going to see in line 84 and 85, a $40,000 part-time position as an assistant clerk. So the reason that number's 48,000 is that 8,000 is still Nancy, subbing when Sherry's out, but that 40,000. And the reason that the payroll taxes and benefits changes is that's the payroll taxes for that 40,000 position. So it would be an added position to the town, but I think it's something that we need to start to plan for. And if we don't build it in and we don't start to help figure out how to do that, we're going to end up in more trouble than just budget deficit.
So the formality of saying this is a date certain, that's not been done?
So that hasn't been done. And that's something I think that, I don't know if you have it, I don't know how that conversation happens with an elected official, whether she's going to decide not to run at some point, and then would choose to stay on or as a consultant. But that's a discussion that I don't know how that works. That's something that you'd have to talk to Sherry about.
Okay.
In funding that position, that halftime position, you're making the assumption that that person is going to run for office. And because that's the intention, but it's not really our choice.
Or there's a charter change and we no longer have an elected town clerk or treasurer, and it's an appointment of the board.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. But that's why I said I think I would invite Sherry to come to a meeting so that we can start to talk about a transition plan. I think it's a bigger topic than just adding some numbers to a budget, but my job tonight was charged with adding some numbers to a budget.
But you're right. It's just that, that would be the other way around that, is that you would, no longer have, because there's other towns that have done that no longer have a elected, city clerk or city treasurer, town clerk or town treasurer, type of thing, that's more of a hired position of a city council or a select board.
That would be a big change.
Huge change. Not that I'm advocating for that. I'm just saying that's another way of looking at it. Or the other flip side of the coin is that,
There's, I've thought about that before too, and I'm not advocating either way, but I'll just put a scenario out for you that there is a little bit of a check and balance of having another elected official in that capacity, versus total control by one board. It's just something to think about. You all here, I have great faith in, but think about a board in the future, maybe that didn't go so well. That elected office of treasurer and
think of corruption.
Elected office of town clerk and treasurer, elected by the people. It's a little bit of a check and balance. So I've kind of changed my opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it certainly warrants further discussion and research on what the role is as it stands, what it's been historically, and what even legally is possible within that role to.
Oh, it's definitely a charter change. Is definitely, you could.
Some I don't know about yet.
Yeah. So a lot to think about, but I need to throw some numbers in there because I at least got her to commit to that one. So that was a big deal. Okay, moving down to line 111, parks and landscaping. I reduced that significantly. The reason that we had it at 20,000 for this year was because there was the board had added $10,000 to it for work on a fountain in Park Street Park, sorry. So that work is intended to be done in fiscal year 25. That's what that 10,000 is. So,
winter project. Good winter project to research.
So that'll be researched this winter and hopefully completed before June 30th. But that was what the 20,000 is. The 7,500 budgeted for this year is the cost for all phase and a little extra for whatever other little park things come up. But the mowing in Tomasi Meadow and the grooming in Tomasi Meadow, that's all on the rec budget, not the town landscape. So it's just more park in our town properties. So just to clear that one up, building maintenance, which is line 112. I threw a number in there. We're talking about repairing and painting the exterior at Town Hall. So I have met with, I threw the 30,000, I threw 20 and I don't have any idea. I met today with 2 or 3 today. It's been such a long day, I can't remember. Either 2 or 3 painters today, and I have 2 tomorrow. So I'm getting all the quotes for our interior office painting, not the great room, but our office maintenance painting, and also the exterior here and the exterior and at the post office. So I'm trying to get some quotes for us so that we have numbers to put in the budget for those things. So that was just me throwing a number in there, but by next week we should have quotes to throw in there. So we have some.
So when you are getting quotes, I'm assuming that you're getting quotes to paint the entire building and not per side or 2 sides or whatnot. So I would ask that you, when you get those quotes, if you could clarify what the price would be if they were to paint per side of the building, so that if we aren't able to accomplish the whole building in one fiscal year, like how much could we do, based upon how the quotes come back.
Okay. Well, if they seem
if you're getting
extraordinary, then I will, but I think,
They're going to surprise you.
I think we've got to have, there's some repairs that need to be done both here and over at the post office. There's quite a bit of rot at the post office. There's what are they called on the railings? The barristers? Are those banisters, the parts that go up and down, need to be, a couple of those are missing and rotted out. So there's repairs that need to be done, but I can go back to any of them and ask for more detail. Let's see what the quotes look like.
Correct. If it looks like they're in line, great. But if we need to only do half the building this year and half the building, the following year, then okay.
Yeah, I will definitely ask that. Absolutely. So then the next one is the technical expenses, and we'll wait on that one because Brad's still finalizing things with Tech Group and coming back to you with those numbers. So stay tuned for that. I will put whatever Brad gets back from Tech Group. I will incorporate that into version 3 for the next meeting. And then 126 is highlighted because that's the post office maintenance and repair, and we don't know yet, but we're waiting for the quotes on that one as well. So we'll come back to that as well. Next one is the sheriff number. That is the 10 hours at $80. That's the 41.6, which is an almost 10% increase over last year. And I will defer to the board, but we're going to wait until we get the information, until you decide if you want to add hours to that. So for now, I'll leave it the way it is, because we should have those numbers for the next time we meet too.
So in anticipation of that, Brad, could you ask the state police to provide us with, if we're going to look at this and we're going to consider additional hours and we're going to have them do more than just traffic, can you please ask the state police if they would be interested, and if so, how much it would cost us if we're going to make a comparison between the state police and the sheriff's office of, price wise, as far as dollars, per hour for a state trooper versus a sheriff deputy, and, based upon the number of hours. So if it's 10 is what's looking good, fine, but we should compare what these are both going to look like.
Good point, Bob. I'm surprised to see $80 an hour for the sheriff. For some reason, I thought this was around 45, but maybe that's just a mistake. So it would be good to see the difference.
Yeah, last year I think it went from 68.
No, we were basically at 75 last year.
Was it all 75?
Yeah.
So it's gone up 10. It's gone up like $10.
I don't want that to come out at like I'm against the sheriff, because I'm not. I just, I feel like we have 2 options. We either have, or we can try to do our own thing, but I think that's foolish, type of thing. It's just like, I think we look at the sheriff and and then we ask the state police if they'd be interested, and if so, like, what would we be looking at for $1 per hour?
I can, if I'm unsuccessful with the state police, I can maybe get some numbers from some neighboring towns of what they pay. Haven't found them to be
Just be
super.
mindful that, it's not necessarily, it's only what their capacity is, and they're kind of short staffed
I know.
anyway. So it's
I
like,
know. And there is some history we should talk about someday that you all need to be aware of. So anyway, we'll go there.
It would likely be significantly more expensive.
Absolutely. If they even would
Uh,
entertain it.
We'll get the numbers.
Yeah.
Good.
Traffic calming, I added the extra package, the software package.
and then we're looking at the potential of having another one on Pleasant Valley, and then I believe that we should start looking at adding them on River Road. One, if not two.
So
one near the Sullivan Farm, and one,
Two more signs.
somewhere between Sand Hill and English Settlement.
So you want me to add under the budget 2 more signs and 2 more software packages?
I'm throwing it out there as a discussion that I think that, you have some long straightaways of where people are speeding, and this is where people are saying that there's the problem. There's the problem from Harvey Road all the way to the center. There's Poker Hill, there's River Road where people love to fly. There's Park Street because there's, children and pedestrians and stuff like that. So it's just like, I'm just throwing out like where I'm getting the phone calls and where I notice where people are just, sailing right along. So if there's other areas, then yes, but I think that we should be looking at either increasing presence of law enforcement, or we should be looking at, maybe maintaining what that is. And then we should be looking at obtaining more data from these signs so that we know like how bad is it really, type of thing. And are these things working?
Yeah.
Why don't we put it in, and when we come back
Yep.
to final versions, if we need to take out, we can, but
Okay.
put it in.
Got it. I'll get with you on
Yeah.
who I reach out to for
Well,
estimates on that.
I can get.
All traffic?
Yeah, I can get it.
Thank you. All right, so recreation, I just don't have their numbers yet. They were meeting this week, so I should have their numbers soon, for the next version. Conservation, I do have their number. That's the budget request, and I sent you all a copy of that, so I put that in at $3,325, line number 187. The Park District number, I put in that line 192 from our meeting last week. And getting pretty close to that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
You get 3 minutes left.
I did put in the loan. I put in the loan numbers, 269 and 270. Those are our actual, those are our loan payments for our debt. And I think, did they give you a copy of the debt? I don't remember. It's been so long. Well, it'd be very similar.
Yes, you did.
So the page that says
You did.
I did a debt one, and then there's capital infrastructure, which has the payments. It kind of breaks down, which payments are for which vehicle, just so you knew. So, I mean, basically, when we're looking at when we do start having capital discussions, and you talk about what does it cost us for when we have a 5-year loan, it obviously depends on what interest rates are, but basically, right now we're paying $60,000 a year for that, for a new dump truck, for the double axle. What's it called? A tandem. Thank you. It's costing the town $60,000 in principal and interest. So, so that's where that 236. Those are all of our equipment notes for the year. And then lastly, in line 276, I did throw in the Pleasant Valley section, number 3. I put that in there too, just so we can start to look at some real numbers. But I'd like to address the capital, just have that capital discussion when we have more time to look at that in more detail. And that is it for now. So
1 minute ahead of schedule. Thank you.
thank you.
Wait, can I say something? I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not, but back when we got the excavator, we wanted to purchase a priority valve to run our mulch head. And I wanted to utilize money we had left in the loan, but we were not allowed to do so, and said to bring it back up and have it be a budgeted item. So I did get an updated quote on that. Is that something we should talk about now, or is that something we should talk about on?
Is it a capital item?
It's almost $28,000.
That would be a capital item, so.
So what do we?
Or if we have reserves that are not spent, then that would be something that we could consider
You mean surplus?
surplus,
Yep.
correct? So hold that,
But
in my mind, hold that thought before we dump that in there.
Yeah. Well, either way.
If we have surplus and it's
And the voters
reasonable,
decide to
and we
use
have
it.
to vote on it, then we could possibly use it there and get it sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Well, no, the same, it's still,
Yeah, you can't touch surplus from
the
last
surplus
fiscal year.
goes into the budget. So the use of the
So
surplus,
we'd still have to get a vote on utilizing the surplus
Yeah.
from the residents to
Yes.
utilize that.
so it would go into, it would be warned. So
That's fine.
we'll make recommendations and then it would be warned and it would go, and if it got approved, it would go into the budget.
Right. Either way, I'm good.
So, but yeah, I'll add that to the capital discussion if you give me the numbers tomorrow.
Anything?
Is there a number for the Bridge 8 repair?
Mike's still working on that.
Okay.
Bunch of emails going back and forth here, so. And I don't know if that's for this fiscal year, or is that, I don't think
No.
so.
No,
I don't
that
think we're
wasn't on
gonna,
our capital list for this
we're
year.
not gonna, I think it's just exploratory right now, so.
Did we put anything in for solar?
No.
Or
That
did we
would,
too?
that was gonna be, that's ARPA related.
But we said the ARPA funds were reserved for the sidewalk in this building, this room. We said we were going to budget for it, for the solar outside of ARPA dollars.
Okay, well, tell me how much and I'm happy to put that in. I don't have any numbers.
You guys can talk offline about that.
Okay.
I'm all for it. But like version 3.
The only thing I'm gonna say about I'd like to say one thing about the solar thing, and I'd like this to be on the public record. It seems that the Historical Society is very concerned about maintaining this building and its, in its structure, et cetera. And I would be very concerned about putting rather unattractive solar panels on the roof of a historic building. I think it changes the character far more than anything else. Thank you. I just want that to be on the record. I'm done now.
Okay. Anything else? We're on
Jen,
to
thank you very much.
We're on to
Jen, I'm going to
closing.
send you, through the course of the year, I took notes of things that might hit the budget. It's just, I'm not asking for all of these to be priced up, but I want to send this to you, just to, if there's anything in here we've missed. Okay.
Email it to me.
So closing public comment period. There's no one here for the public.
Well, Dan Lee has his hand up.
Yep. I was just about to go to the virtual world.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
So this is a great time to hear what you have to say.
All right. I gotta be honest. I hesitate to make a comment about the renovations of the town hall because it seems quite loaded. I'm not sure that reducing the floor area is a good idea when there's numerous public events that fill the space.
Okay.
It seems like the tables could possibly go on the stage area as it is. May need to be new tables, narrower tables, may need to be a different arrangement. I feel a bit, I really like the idea of having an alternate meeting space. I'm on the development review board, and at times we go into deliberation, and we've sat in the kitchen before, and it's not that pleasant. But it does really take away from the great room to extend a floor to ceiling wall at the choir, at the loft. Would really change the volume of the room substantially. And I think that's all my comments.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's part of the record, and it is important to hear from people about these topics so that we're not operating in a vacuum. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Anything else? Next thing on the agenda is to review and approve payroll warrants. I think, are they in front of you, Dan?
Just one payroll warrant. Yes, it's in the packet or. No.
So I move that we accept the payroll warrant dated 11/18/2024. Is there a second? I've moved that we accept the payroll warrant dated 11/18/2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of approving the payroll warrant dated 11/18/2024, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next is the warrants.
I don't think.
No, so that's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's all we have. I do have the minutes from last meeting, but they were, and we're in our statutory period, but they weren't in time for the packet. So we'll do those next time. There are two other items in there. One, I think, is the resolution, and that needs to be signed by everybody. And then the other is the insurance.
The one that had.
The
Patricia
medical
Stone.
thing that has to be submitted to the
Patricia
state.
Stone.
Yeah.
It was annulled.
It was an old, yeah.
And this may be just for the chair.
Bob got the house.
Okay.
Who's in the dog?
Where am I signing this?
You can pass it.
Accepted by the town of Underhill
That's you.
by.
That would be you, yes.
That's for you.
Thank you.
Dan, you'll have to come in and sign the resolution sometime if you get a chance. We should get that in the land record.
Yep, this will be recorded, so
Signature, Jim.
Sure. I'll stop in.
This needs to be signed.
stop and see me, Dan.
That's good. It just goes to Dan, and then you gotta sign that. All right, now that we got that out of the way, next item is amender item correspondence announcement schedule. Next scheduled select board meeting is December 12th, 2024, to discuss special budget review meetings and a substitute meeting for December 26th. So we heard earlier that we'd like to try to meet for a special select board meeting on 12/5 and 12/19 to discuss just the budget. So hopefully, and I'm assuming we will meet here and we will meet at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so if we do the 3 Thursdays again, we should be, it would be great if that everything ironed out for the night.
Sorry, Brad, your mic's not on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Dan. It would be great if we had everything ironed out by the 19th. So if we met those 3 consecutive Thursdays, I think we'll be in a really good place. Because we do have, we have statutory deadlines and then the town report and those sort of things. Well, like Jennifer said, at the very latest, the first week of January.
All right, so
Would it be possible to meet at 6:30 instead of 6 on the 5th?
6:35.
6:35.
Okay, so
The
the
grade
5th, yeah.
school has their lantern parade that
Okay,
night,
it's a
so
special
that's-
meeting, so I'm just going to write this down.
6:30,
If that's
12,
okay.
5.
Would that be okay?
December
Okay,
5th.
just
Thank
for the 5th or for both days?
just for the 5th.
So it's 12/5 at 6:30, 12/19 will be at 6 here at the town
12/19.
hall.
12/19 is your substitute, right?
Right, 12/12 is the regular meeting.
12/12 will be the regular, but these are 12/5 and 12/19 are going to be special select board meetings to discuss just the budget.
12/19.
And if there is something urgent that has to be discussed, but the primary focus is going to be the budget.
Special.
So just for heads up, I will be out of the country on the 5th and 12th for my job, so I won't be in attendance for both of those, but I will be back for the 19th.
Okay.
We'll keep you up to date on email wise and what happened at the meeting.
And if you have budget things that you want me to consider putting in, all you have to do is let me know and I'll put them in and then bring them to the meeting.
I will. Thank you.
So I think the other thing that I'd like to discuss is that that we're going to postpone the meeting of the 26th due to the holiday. And we probably will meet sometime after the new year. So I'd like to cancel the meeting of the 26th.
I was thinking about if the 19th would be in place of the 26th, kind of like today is.
Yep. So
okay
if it's okay,
Yes.
I would like to cancel the 26th.
I
And the
would too.
19th will be the last meeting of 2024. Okay.
Sounds like winter.
I would like to discuss at this time, traditionally, we have given the town employees a holiday bonus. The last several years, we have, allowed them to get together as a group and go out for lunch. Unfortunately, the place that they have been going to traditionally is no longer in business. So I would like to see them continue to have that tradition of and have board approval for them to get together as a group or as close as a group as they possibly can. I know that the road crew was able to get together for a breakfast in Jeffersonville, and the staff here was able to get together for lunch someplace. I would like to urge them to, if they can, try to go to lunch together, but I know that schedules sometimes don't allow that with removal of snow and weather and everything like that. So, but I would like to have the consensus of the board that we continue that tradition for them.
I think that's an excellent suggestion and highly supported.
So if that could be disseminated, if everybody's good with that, I know that in the past it's been a few $100s, type of thing. It's not an exorbitant amount of money, but I think it goes a long ways for employees and, having a time to say thank you to them. Also, I'd like to continue the consensus of giving the town employees a gift certificate. In years past, we have given them a gift certificate to the Jericho Tavern, the Jeffersonville Tavern. I have not heard anyone complain about that, and I believe it's been well received. So I'd like to continue, if it's the consensus of the group, that we continue that tradition as well for them.
I also support that gesture.
Sounds very nice.
Okay.
There was a couple correspondence in there I just wanted to touch on briefly.
Yeah, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Then we can get to correspondence of other folks.
It was the second thing, but that's okay.
Yeah. Matt Champlin, the fire chief of the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, is going to be retiring as chief and will be bestowed with an honorary chief designation. The fire department will be having a recognition celebration that will occur on February 15th, 2025 at the Catamount Club in Williston. I know that members of this board will be invited, so if you would mind jotting down the 15th of February, and the invitation will come and you can RSVP, but I wanted to give you as much notice as possible. I'd also like to see the town of Underhill present Matt with some type of gift, whether it be a painting or something nice gesture. I feel awkward leading that, but I would like to see somebody else on the board if they could, work on that. And I don't know if we need to bestow a dollar amount or not, but I would like to see that happen.
I think that's an excellent suggestion as well.
Okay, now we can get back to other correspondence. Let me get to are we talking about COTS?
No, that was appropriations.
Yep.
So we're at the very, very end. There was a letter from Jennifer, Animal Control, regarding a dog. And then the other thing that I just wanted to touch on briefly, just to give you a follow-up, we got a letter from Ty, the postmaster in Underhill, about the Mount Vista Route 15 intersection. I forwarded that to VTrans, and VTrans is forwarding it off to their safety people. So the right-of-way is really large right there for Route 15. It's about 55 feet off the center. So we don't, and I talked to Ty today, and he doesn't have any problems with Mount Vista, except that it's washboardy once in a while. But other than that, I don't think there's really much we can do. There's not much we can do to, it's a state issue. So
the correspondence that we have is for Lee and Bart, Lee Thompson, Bart Johnson at 19 Dune Road in Underhill, Vermont, regarding an animal dog at large issue that has been sent out. Details can be found in the packet, just for the record. And the other one is a letter from the postmaster of Underhill regarding the conditions, hazardous conditions near Mount Vista Road and Route 15. And details of that letter can also be found in the packet.
I have one more thing.
Yep.
I just want to make a comment about the Dean Road work. The water bars have been cleaned out. It was excellent work. The number of hunters up on Dean Road and the use of Dean Road as a class 4 road. I'm up there 4 days a week training the dogs, but I see many, many other people. So it's not, it's a recreational road, and the water bar cleanouts are fabulous. Compliments to Chris Poley and his staff.
Announcement schedules, special budget meeting, substitute meeting. What else am I missing, Brad?
we did it.
It's all done?
It's all done.
Dan, this is your favorite time of the meeting. Dan Kelsey, I'm going to bestow you with the honor of making a motion to adjourn.
Timing too. 8:32.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made by Dan, seconded by
I second.
Maureen. There's no discussion, unfortunately. I know it breaks Patty's heart every time. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
There's a fast count. That's right. Yeah, I could read his mind. I knew he was going to say. Motion carries 5-0. We are now adjourned. The time is 8:32. We are 2 minutes past the schedule. I'm sorry, Brad. I know it's hard.
Nice
Thank you.
job. Way to hold it all in there.
All right.